So how many other of E.T. races are third dimensional?
Almost every one of them. It's an option. That's the difference. For most humans, it's not really an option at this point to be physical or non-physical. Their only access to non-physical stuff is when they're sleeping at night, and then they're not conscious of it. But a lot of extraterrestrial races have shifted into the 6th and 7th dimensional realities, physicality is a choice they can make. So they exist most of the time in 6th dimensional reality, but then they can focus themselves into a state where they make love or something like that.
And so they can step into third dimensional reality at will.
Yes.
And so they would then appear to us to be another person? Yeah,
many of them would. But the problem with stepping into a third dimensional consciousness in an extraterrestrial embodiment is that those embodiments are not going to be compatible with Earth. I think it's super funny that most people don't understand, well, if there's so many aliens in the universe, why wouldn't they immediately show themselves? Now, that's a whole other subject because it has to do with why they wouldn't show themselves when they can. But there's a whole group that can't, literally couldn't, even if they wanted to. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. The Arcturian race, right? The Arcturian race has an embodiment, a physical embodiment, which is not compatible with nitrogen at all. Now, placing them in an environment where there's high levels of nitrogen, which there are on this particular planet, is a lot like putting a slug in salt. It would evaporate. Bam. So, it's funny because, we humans, we can't even go to the depths of the ocean on our own planet, and we're confused about why other extraterrestrial beings wouldn't just be able to, eat, breathe, sleep, and poop like we can.
They just know better, so they don't come here.
Oh, yeah. The point at which you can come here is the point at which you've at least developed awareness enough to know whether you can or not. So what they do is they project themselves forth, which they can, because from those higher levels of consciousness, it becomes very easy to literally project yourself forth in order to become the perspective of a life form that's existing. So what they do is they project themselves forth. There's multiple ways of doing it as a physical human or as whatever being they're trying to interact with. So, let's say that a whole lot of issues were happening in the dolphin community. An extraterrestrial would be most likely to project itself as a dolphin. But it just so happens that there's not a lot of contrast going on in the dolphin community. So
yeah, they're a pretty harmonious race.
Yes.
Yeah. So I forget if I already asked you this previously in another interview, but what are crop circles? Are any of them created by E.T.s?
Yes, it's a mix of things. So what you'll find is that there's a lot. Humans are highly symbolic, and a lot of languages are highly symbolic. Now, when you look at symbols, obviously, symbols are the most unanimous language. So what you have is collective human consciousness is actually focusing in such a way now that it is able to create those huge symbolic communications. So what is happening essentially in a great many cases is that the collective human consciousness, which is its own thought form, is communicating its desires. But obviously those communications are not going to come in the form of English or Italian or whatever other language, because that's not the unanimous language for human consciousness. The unanimous language for human consciousness will be things like mathematics and symbols. So when that happens, you'll see the Earth actually is responding to human consciousness. And so human consciousness creates a great many of them, but this is the thing. This is where it gets interesting. When that started to happen way back when, a lot of extraterrestrial races were watching that and realizing that is how they communicate. So a lot of these crop circles are actually them answering the things that we have created. It's it's us being super subconscious of the fact that we're doing it. But these fields and things are actually our message board to the rest of the universe, and they're using it back with us as well, and with each other. So crop circles are not as simple as, yes, this is the one being, the one race that's using them, and this is the one purpose for them. It's really it's like there are multiple beings all using the same whiteboard, trying to use the same symbols to connect with one another. And sometimes they're using the whiteboard to talk to themselves, like, like a certain extraterrestrials will talk to other extraterrestrials, and then they'll be trying to use it to talk to us, and we'll be using it to try to talk to them. But we're really muddled about figuring out which is the case. And that's going to be dependent on the specific crop circle. And of course, some of the crop circles are man-made, and that's just because people are trying to draw attention, and it's a game, I guess. I'm a bit frustrated because while I mean, it's a beautiful art, but I'm also frustrated because they've done a massive detraction,
So how's that?
Well, the people who are like deliberately going out and making them in secret, and then like everyone's thinking it's aliens, they're drawing a lot of credibility away from the reality, essentially, which is that we're not the only race that's at work here on Earth. So it frustrates me personally a little bit.
Just because it kind of muddies the waters.
Yes, which we don't need them any more muddy, honestly. Humans don't need it any more muddy.